Hey everyone, it's Irene with a new process video, and this is the first layout I created with the November kit, and it was a lot of fun, even though I have to admit that also for me, I think it's for other people the same, sometimes breaking into a kit is, I don't know, somehow harder than using it when you've already like cut down pieces and got yourself a little familiar with it. But yeah, just me and my relationship issues with my supplies. Anyway, so I started, the one thing I knew I wanted to do was to use the numbers on my layout, and I embossed half of them, so it's kind of actually a bit a third. I kind of wanted to get this dipped look. I don't know, it was like a huge trend, I think, in interior design, and, like dipped furniture and all kinds of things. So, like the legs of a chair would be colored in one color, or like it's been dipped in color, in paint. So I used the silver embossing powder that came with a stamp add-on. But of course you can use whatever embossing powder you have, or paint. I just really like the effect, and I knew I would use like other silver accents, so I went with silver, and the number is 35. Yes, I turned 35 last week, and I don't know, some birthdays are like, yeah, no problem. And then there are these numbers that are like, wow, really? I'm 35? It's not that I think that 35 is old. I mean, probably I thought that when I was like 15, but mostly you grow up with feeling, or at least I did, that when I will be 35, I'll have things figured out and I'll be like a grown up. And I don't feel like that at all. I mean, I'm a mother, and my daughter is 5 years old, and that certainly changes things. And um, yeah, you really have to kind of grow up, and yeah, also do things like all this worrying, like worrying all the time about your kids. It's so hard. Just this fear, but that you don't have when you're just on your own. Um, but yeah, let's not get too philosophical. Anyway, the number was kind of like, whoa, 35. And I'll talk a bit about what I'm doing. Maybe that's a bit better. So I'm just showing you here the whole process, and I don't end up using actually this piece. I did start out, I just wanted to practice a little bit and see how it looked, and I'm using two of the inks that came with a color add-on. I'm using the pink one, which is called Tulip, and the silver one, which is called Silver, and I'm just mixing them as I go. And you can see I really love doing this with, yeah, pretty much every medium that I use, whether it's watercolors or acrylics or something. I really love mixing colors on my layout. I kind of have this thing about, I really think that in order to use your supplies more, and especially art supplies, like inks and paints, you need to be familiar with them. And the more you play with them, the easier it gets, and also, it gets easier to know what look you want, and also you get familiar with the colors you own. So, but yeah, I don't like practicing, and I don't like, I know it's, well, maybe it's not stupid, but paper, for example, like good paper is something that is expensive and hard to find for me, and especially in Europe, I can't get like really cheap deals online, or use a coupon at Michael's or Joanne. I just don't have that option. I buy my paper usually in the local art supply store, and it's expensive. So I don't feel like, I can just fill up 10 sheets of paper with, color experiments. If I do that, I tend to I have like a big, what's her name? Diane Rivoli, I think her name is. She has this big art journal with nice thick paper in it, and it's very reasonably priced, and especially if you can get it like on Amazon or Joanne or something, it's very reasonably priced. So I tend to use that for playing around. But yeah, so my point is, with all this talking, is that I like to mix colors and play with my colors on my layouts. And that's what I was trying to do. Of course, here I didn't end up using it, but I think I probably will use it as a background one day, maybe with this kit, maybe not. But you can just see how fun it is and how great it looks, like all these shades. So I am going to use these two colors on this layout here, the two inks, but this is going to be later. So just adding a little bit detail, I cut some strips from the pattern paper, and this is also something I did last month, meaning that the first layout I did with the new kit had some strips of pattern paper, and I like to start using kits that way because it really gets you into, cutting the papers and playing with papers, and yeah, and then somehow scraps are easier to use, right? In 12 by 12. So just a little added detail here. I went with my embossing ink pad around the edges and then dipped them in the silver embossing powder. Don't make a mess like I did. It was all over the place. And then I heat embossed it. The part where I heat embossed it is not on the video because it just took too long. And I thought I would spare you from that particular part, but that's just like all I did. And then I adhered the strips onto my background paper, and I used that Chamel paper, that like cream and white paper. I really love that paper. It's one of my favorite this month. And I'm using liquid adhesive, and I'm making sure that I want the strips lying down completely flat, except the last, I don't know, quarter of an inch, not even eighth of an inch around the edges, because I am gonna like pull the edges up a bit at the end, at the very end, for some more texture. But other than that, I want everything to lie flat. I'm adding gesso, and I don't want these strips to warp. So yeah, you can also use like A to G, but just, yeah, I would say use more adhesive if you're adding gesso or ink on top of it. So then is always the risky part. Those strips looked so nice on the background, and I always have this little should I, shouldn't I with the gesso and the ink, but yeah, I gotta go for it. If you like cleaner scrapbooking, like a cleaner look, then you can do just the strips. You don't even have to like emboss the edges, even though I think it really adds a really nice detail. But and you can glue everything straight, not all wonky like I did here. And yeah, and then I added the ink, and the ink in the add-on is very concentrated and very pigmented, and it's almost a little bit, it's not very like watery, it's thicker, and in order to add these kind of watercolor look that I love to do, I added some water just to water it down a little bit, because it's so thick. So I used the silver and the pink, and I mixed them up a little bit. And I also used a little brush to get some ink splatters. And yeah, I'm using some packaging to apply the ink, and that creates that beautiful watercolor look without having to use too much water, and you get more control than, say, if you were using spray inks, for example. But you can make your own spray inks with these inks, and I will probably do that sometime this month. So yeah, they're just fun products to play around with. And I'm cutting down the 12 by 12 paper, and I am going to mount it on a piece of white cardstock. It also looked really good on craft and gray, but I really wanted to keep it bright and light, so I went with white. And I'm using again a good amount of liquid adhesive. With the one I'm using here, the Tombow, you only need a little. And what I sometimes use my A to G, but what I like about using the liquid adhesive, that you have a few seconds to move things around and stretch my paper. Whereas when I use the ATG, it's also kind of forgiving, but when I do that, I'm pointing at the screen and you can't see that, but what I mean is when I mount my layout on a 12 by 12 paper, I use a lot of adhesive. So if I don't lay it down right the first time, it's kind of a hassle to reposition it. So that's why I like using the liquid adhesive. And I like the Tombow because you need a very small amount. Some papers, if you use liquid adhesive and you use a large amount on them, they will buckle where you put the glue, and I don't want that. So I like this adhesive because it's so strong. And of course I'm using some vellum behind my photo, which I love to do with this type of layout that have kind of a lot of stuff going on in the background. And yeah, it's a photo of me holding a glass of wine, which my friends kind of force me. I'm really, really weird. I don't drink anything except water and coffee. Well, I'm completely addicted to coffee. But that only started when I was 22, and it was because of university. I was kind of falling asleep on my books. And I was like, how can I solve this problem with caffeine? So that's how I started drinking coffee. I don't know, I'm really weird. I only like water. And I've tried many, many times to drink like wine and beer. And yeah, I think my husband will divorce me one day because he always has to drink alone. Yeah, so anyway. I was out on dinner with my friends. I talked about this a little bit in a previous video on my channel, but I have two good friends living in the States, and they were also in Israel at the same time I was. And another friend of ours, the fourth to this particular group, lives like an hour and a half away from where we all used to live, so we managed to meet for kind of one afternoon and evening, and it was so great. And yeah, so one of my friends were like, you have to like at least toast with some wine. I won't have it any other way. So yeah. So I'm just posing. My husband saw the photo and he was like, what are you holding there? And I'm like, yeah, it's a glass of wine. They told me to hold it. But yeah, so I don't even like any like drinks that have like gas in them, like sparkly drinks. I'm very, very weird that way. It's completely unintentional. It just doesn't taste good for me. But coffee, yeah. So what else did I do on this layout? My time is running out. I added some little wood veneer and some stars, rub-ons and stickers and all the goodies that came in the kit. And I hope you enjoyed this chatty little video. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.